Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. Exciting times. Deathless King Groot. So as part of the CTP, we've had a very kind of quick time frame, a short time frame to actually kind of like play around this champion. Of course, I wanted to get a video right then and there, like, you know, finger on the pulse. As soon as it's kind of like a point we can talk about it, let's kind of go in and talk about it. King Groot Deathless, of course, it says 7-star. You can get the 6-star version. 6-star probably easier if you're getting it to take it up to a high rank and high level, signature level, because it's going to be very important. Quickly covering from a 7-star perspective, it's going to be difficult from a stat focus perspective as to what's the best kind of, stat focus for this. I've personally gone from an attacking point of view for special damage. I feel this is more kind of like an important thing nowadays. Maybe crit damage, depending on the type of content. Maybe crit rating, but personally it's tough to say because you want to maximize damage off that special attack, and I feel that it may be special damage that kind of like edges it a little bit. From a defense perspective, again, a difficult one. Maybe block penetration, which is a normal kind of like classic one to go with. I went with physical resistance, but again, it's like between who's the best option, I would say energy resistance may be interesting because a lot of Mystic champions do have that as a part of their kind of kit. So it could be relatively important, but block penetration may be the better one. But again, it's tough to say on what is going to be that specific defense-based narrative. From a Relic perspective, and of course we're just getting this out of the way, I'll probably break this up so it kind of gives a bit more kind of coverage on things. Again, another tough thing as to what is the best relic for this. I personally am more of a fan of the Thor relic, mainly because that kind of amplifies more aptitude. So if you've got Fury buffs on, it can do more damage. This isn't a good example. Where's the 6-star one that I had that I was playing with? I think it's already attached up top. But that one had just like you can build Fury potency a bit better on it. There it is. Fury potency with it, which with this particular rune, Fury buff potency, Ragnarok vigor, gaining a Fury buff grants a non-stacking vigor passive, increasing all damage of the champion, deals the opponent, blah blah blah. Helpful if you can time it in, not time it in, but helpful, with things like the SP2 damage and stuff like that. And of course, just a precision potency up because hey, when you kind of get dexterity up, it kind of actions into that, to name but a few. Right. Okay, so we've talked about that. Let's talk about the abilities. So I'll probably separate this section into abilities and, stat focus and all the important things. We'll talk about rotations in a minute when we go over some gameplay. But there's some really kind of cool bits of utility here, like, so immune to bleed. So it kind of favors the champion being a Ouchy Masteries type option, which if you're curious, I've got Ouchy Masteries on at the moment, which are just a kind of like a bulk standard type version of that, which I think I'm running on my main account. Just a little bit in willpower at the moment. It's not a great build. It's just something that, because this reset, you can't have the loadouts on the CCP beta, so they're broken, so I can't kind of fully spec to the way that I want to. But down the line, I will on my main account, but I just can't for this particular showcase because it's broken, so to speak. So the usual things with this champion, look at it from a point of view of build ignition buffs. We'll see that in a minute, how ignition buffs can be a really potent and important thing. I would say if you want to build those ignition buffs, just do, when you got Fury buffs on, SP1, armor breaks on. So anytime or when you've shrugging off of a damaging debuff, that builds, when you have a Fury buff used, you get an ignition buff. And the ignition buffs do scale in with the SP2, which is the big damage dealer on rotation. The SP2 seems to be the main thing that you can use with this. Each internal breath hits deals X amount of damage. The final hit inflicts an Incinerate Debuff. When the Incinerate triggers, consume more ignition buffs to increase its potency by 30% for each buff consumed. So that, I think the max you can get is 3 with this, the ignition buffs. Yeah, if not, you could just like build up quickly. I'm all about just trying to get to 3 ignition buffs and kind of stopping there. But I do like other rotations. Like I like the idea of the rotation of hitting off SP1, putting armor breaks on, build up to 10, and then look to do a load of damage. You're going to see that in some footage in a minute. But that's going to be it for all the kind of like talking about abilities, because I did want to make this a very kind of quick and to the point type video. The content I can see this champion being used in various. I think he can absolutely smash through high hit pool based fights, so you could see him being used quite a bit for Labyrinth of Legends, maybe even Necropolis. I haven't been able to test it because, you know, I can't test it at the point of this at the moment. I'm waiting for Kabam to kind of add that in, but maybe some other content he could be used in its high hit pools. Not sure about Abyss of Legends because it's specific base fights. There could be some options based on that for sustainability, and he's got a lot of survivability and a lot of sustainability. And as well, great for incursions. I think he's going to be one of the best in incursions, especially if you got the Galan seed, the Odin pre-fight, those pre-fights put onto the champion, which you're going to see in a minute, and Incinerate based hacks to enhance that. Debuff damage improvements are going to be helpful, anything that amplifies armor break. And buff cornucopia as well, like a really kind of smashing kind of like amount of stuff that's going to make him a real strong, sustainable and survivability based option. In any case, let's roll some footage. Now we kick off right in the thick of things against the Juggernaut fight. So first of all, I've launched my my Thor Relic, my striker, and you can see I've launched the SP2. It's taken all those ignition buffs, and I've also recoiled. You can see the regen of Unyielding Might really coming into its own. I'm also waiting for the Fury buffs to go round and cycle in. So there you go, they cycled in. And you can see the timer for the Incinerate in top right. I'm going to do a heavy attack, even though it's unstoppable, to pause that Incinerate effect. So that's something we'll talk about a bit more, but that's something that I wanted to talk about the play of the champion as we get close to like what I think is a more opportune rotation for the champion. But one thing that I like to do is push to an SP1 first off, which you can see has just been activated, and I've managed to put on 2 of the arm breaks, one of which is cycling out because it's got a duration, but I do like to put on the permanent ones, which you can see the rotation is coming up. Now we're going to go into Labyrinth of Legends a little bit later on, but you can see SP1's gone in because I want to try and get to 10 armor breaks overall, and I can get at least to 2. There's a real nice kind of thing about this this champion where you can get your power really built up quickly, which means that you can rotate more quickly around special attacks, which means you're doing more special attacks, which means you're doing more damage. This is like really a huge advantage for the champion. You can see now I've got 10 Furies, which I've now absorbed all but that's going to be 9 permanent armor breaks that I've got on, and I'm doing another one, so it's just a case of like the OCD and me's just done 10, but there's some really nice crits. This is a rank 2 200 signature. We'll talk quickly about the signatures in a moment as to like why I feel that this could be a bit of a problem for the champion. I think my only kind of criticism from this particular champion is it does feel like the signature ability is going to be really important to maximize more damage overall. So with the SP2 just going to be blasting off, which you can see right there, that's a huge amount of damage. Now we're straight into the Storm fight. Why am I taking damage, you might ask? Well, let's see about regen. So my regen at the moment is at 70% and is going down. I'm allowing myself to be hit right here, and the fight has gone on for a little while. Really important because, of course, the longer the fight, the more kind of like things happen with the champion's improvements, whether it's damage and regen. But you can see here SP3 is going in 65%, back up to 71%. The regen comes in. We got the cycle out of Malice, so it means that we've got double the amount of regen, and you can see I've pretty much kind of, as I kind of cower back a little bit, I've got my survivability up for this champion. It's just really darn nice, and so it's going to be game over. You can do heavy attack rotations with your Fury buffs being absorbed, which helps out to build those ignition buffs. You can do a burst of Incinerate by that particular means, so that's great. Okay, so I was talking briefly about the signature ability of the champion. So one thing that I do want to kind of forewarn people is that 200 signature means that you get 101% more duration based on how long the fight has gone on. So the more signatures you have, the more and the longer the Incinerate is going to be on the enemy, which is going to be really handy depending on rotation with, you know, doing stacks of Incinerate depending on how you want to play the champion. There's also a greater amount of recovery of health when it comes to Malice, so that again is all about the survivability. So more damage on the Incinerate debuff for longer, and regen sustainability and survivability, which of course is very important for a lot of players. This is why I think this is going to be a great incursions-based option. Running this champion with Guillotine Deathless could be really cool, although I would have liked more kind of utility factors to things like evade counters and stuff like that. So against this regen rate of Wolverine, it's been really cool to see like, well, how does Deathless King Groot kind of like stack up? And it's still pretty good. Going to see more damage actuation and kind of like just fun in the upcoming footage in Labyrinth of Legends with Starlord, but this is still pretty impressive because we're going to put in a big SP2 right now with the ignition buffs kind of like cycling away, and it's like per tick was like 4, nearly 5k of damage. Every hit is doing a really nice amount as well. Stacks up with the crits as well, you know, great crit damage. But of course this is from Suicide Masteries, so we're talking about survivability and sustainability being such an important thing, and it's a great champion with Ouchy Masteries. Okay, so here we have right now this kind of fight sped up a little bit. It's going to slow down in a second because I do want to talk a little bit more about this. So the first thing is, in these longer fights, which I think is like a 4.5 mil health pool fight, I've built up my King Groot, Deathless King Groot, to that 10 armor breaks. I've done a pause there of that Incinerate, which is ticking at 6.2k at the moment. And then we're going to do a big SP2, throwing on another that was really nice. That was a huge flurry of damage, which you can see. I did get hit there. That was kind of like on me for a bit of a mistake. But yeah, it's all about kind of like re-ramping. But here's the thing. If you lose combo with this champion, it's not the be-all and end-all, because the champion is, wow. Did you see that? 94k ticks with that right there. That's when things get very nice for this this champion. Doing a heavy attack as well. I've just absorbed a fury buff to then apply the pause on the Incinerate, so I keep the champion still ticking the amount of damage, and I can just sit back and relax if I want to. That SP2 was done a bit too like prematurely, but still there's some nice kind of damage right there, and it doesn't really matter because the job is done with a single. Yeah, nothing. Just wait it out. Yeah, look, Deathless King Groot is a fantastic option, a fantastic champion. I really enjoyed it as a big fan of King Groot in general. I've got the Funko Pop. Where is it? Right there. There's the Funko Pop. Well, it's not really the Deathless King Groot Funko Pop, but it just looks a little bit like it. So this has been a good champion. I would say the signature and awakening does feel a little bit more needed in some ways, but I think this could be just a great questing champion, great complementary option for incursions, and yeah, a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and the different types of rotations. A few notes in the description if you want to check it out. What are your thoughts on Deathless King Groot? Will it be a champion you'll get? Will you put its Suicide Masteries on the champion? Will you spec the stat focus different way? Thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.